Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hivemind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You notice how we tend to be ahead of these trends. Leftoids tell us that we're uneducated, we're stupid, we're bigots, we're conspiracy theorists, our ideas are backwards and distorted, and it seems as though rhetoric, ideas, policy, we tend to kind of be ahead of the curve. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that with the perfect example from Bill Maher. But before we get into that content, this video is actually brought to you guys by a continued sponsor, a fantastic company that supported us for over a year, so let's play that clip. Folks, you've seen the headlines. Not only is a recession coming, but major banks are on the verge of total collapse. We're facing real rough economic times, and during turbulent economic times, you must make sure to protect yourself by protecting your hard-earned savings. And that's where today's sponsor, American Hartford Gold, comes into play. Historically, one of the best and safest options is pulling out of the bogus fake money fiat currency system and holding actual real assets of value, in this case, real physical gold and silver. And the experts from American Hartford Gold are simply a phone call away, willing and ready to have physical gold and silver delivered straight to your doorstep or delivered directly into your 401k. American Hartford Gold also happens to be one of the top-rated gold investment firms in the entire country, with an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. And it doesn't end there, they're also currently running an incredible promotion where you can get up to $5,000 in free silver on qualifying orders. The question is, what are you waiting for? It's time to protect yourself by protecting your hard-earned cash. And it's as simple as it gets, folks. All you gotta do is call 844-440-1005. I repeat, that is 844-440-1005. Or text Hivemind one word to 65532. Once again, that's text Hivemind one word to 65532. Protect yourself, protect your future. Give American Hartford Gold a call. A massive thank you to American Hartford Gold for their continued support of this YouTube channel. And now back to the video. Alright folks, we've been screaming it from the mountaintops. You know, on this particular issue, it started a while ago. The whole BLM movement spawned. The leftist BLM activist body got so deeply corrupted. Their activist focus over the last couple of years was defunding police departments. We said almost immediately, yeah, that sounds like a really dumb idea. They called us crazy, we don't know policy. They pointed at this country and that country. All kinds of irrelevant examples to make their point. They spoke in complex ways, you know, real academic stuff.
Be persecuted by the pompous fedora, balanced by the equilibrium fortified by the government's inability to eradicate or foreshadow, taken from the Hebrew word for skin.
And we were just sitting there listening to all of it with a trucker hat, biting on a piece of straw going, yeah, I don't know, Bubba. Sounds kind of stupid to me. Well, of course, we were ahead of the curve, weren't we? Fast forward 2.5 years later, most of these leftist city councils have completely backtracked. Even in San Francisco, they're now refunding their police departments. They're adding extra funding and extra training. And so at the time, we were backwards bigots, but we were clearly right. Well, here's another thing that we've been saying forever. Leftists pretend to care about black life. I mean, their activist mantra is literally Black Lives Matter, yet they objectively do not care about black life. And now apparently some leftist thought leaders are starting to wake up. Here's a recent leftoid segment that has leftoid brains imploding.
Seems like crime is kind of out of control. I was reading that in New York, a third of all the shoplifting cases are by 327 people in a city of 8 million. Because they keep getting returned to the streets, which has to be terrible for the morale of the cops, that they keep arresting people and the same people. It's Groundhog Day for them. I mean, I know we have problems with the cops. I've certainly not been shy about talking about them on this show, but I don't understand how we're going to get this situation under control unless they feel like what they do has some meaning as opposed to just a turnstile.
Yeah, my friend Danny, I would call to his attention that that's policy too. Whether or not the DA brings charges, whether or not there are enough cops on the street who feel free to be able to do their jobs is also policy. So.
But when you're talking about that policy in the larger frame of the prison industrial complex, it seems to me that the high incarceration rates are what you would want to attack at first. before you start talking about cop morality. That I think that the whole structure is the issue as opposed to the individual level of the police officer.
It's shooter morality that I want to talk about. But
yeah, but then the question is the cause. So there's the obvious cause of the individual pathology. But then if you're looking at it in the context of a larger structure, I think that the conversation to have is first and foremost about the structure as opposed to the individual criminal. Because I think that the moral valence is clear. It's terrible to commit a crime and it's terrible to hurt people. But then the question is, what do you do from there?
Well, but why isn't anyone ever talking to like Chicago? Like most of the shootings are young black men killing other young black men. Is that not correct?
yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Much more than what the cops do. Why doesn't anybody talk about that? Well, I mean, why aren't there, 100 giant black celebrities who would have the respect of those people saying, what are you doing to yourselves? Why are you each other?
This is no way to live. This dishonors our community. Come on. We're better than this.
Right. I feel like it's never addressed.
I mean, holy moly, holy truth bomb. Everything that Bill Maher just said is what I, and frankly, countless others have been saying for a very, very long time. It's only culturally appropriate for people like LeBron James and other supposed community leaders to point the finger at the supposed system and to point the finger at police officers to make outlandish, totally exaggerated claims which simply heighten racial tensions and doesn't solve any problem, just makes problems worse. But for some reason, it's culturally taboo to condemn violence and criminal behavior. I mean, it's completely whack. We just did a video on the new mayor of Chicago who said to, quote, not demonize young Chicago thugs going on complete rampages in the streets, assaulting random bystanders and pedestrians, smashing cars and looting stores. Don't demonize them, they say. That's appropriate leftist rhetoric, but saying something like, hey, maybe don't commit crime. This isn't exactly a good look for our community. Maybe we should hold ourselves to a higher standard, that somehow is unacceptable. It's completely absurd. On the issue of black on black crime, it's the same thing. Supposedly Black Lives Matter, but not a single leftoid, not a single celebrity, not a single thought leader on the left is willing to mention anything about the absolute epidemic level loss of life in the black community, which is a direct result of black on black violence. Nobody can say that. That's somehow taboo. Not okay to say. It's completely absurd. And on the issue of crime, again, I don't get how it's a controversial statement. You know, the infamous Ben Shapiro debate clip.
According to Pew Research, the net worth of white families in 2013 was $141,000. For black families, it was $11,000, even less than the $19,000 it was in 2007. According to economist Edward Wolf of the University of New York, excluding vehicles and other durables, the median black family worth is just $1,700, while 40% of black families have zero or negative wealth. White family worth, in terms of financial worth, is 69 times more than that of black families. Given this disparity, how can you argue that racism is not a driving factor in income inequality?
Because it has nothing to do with race and everything to do with culture. And when you have a culture that doesn't, you know what? Explain to me. You explain to me why black kids aren't graduating high school. Explain that one to me. Explain to me why black kids are shooting each other in rates significantly higher than whites are shooting each other. Explain to me why 13% of the population is responsible for 50% of the murder. Explain to me why the number of black kids in prison, not for innocent reasons, not for walking down the street and getting pulled into a prison, is so high. Explain, if it has nothing to do with culture, explain to me why the single motherhood rate in the black community jumped from 20% to 70% in the same course of time that the civil rights movement has made such tremendous strides. Is America more racist now than it was in 1960? And if it is, please explain to me how that happened.
That's supposedly a very controversial clip. We've been saying it forever. Leftoids claim that simply stating that statistical fact is unacceptable and hateful. Well, here's Bill Maher talking about 327 people in a city of 8 to 10 million being responsible for a third of all shoplifting cases in New York. He's talking about the majority of individuals involved in taking each other's lives in these homicide cases being prominently young black males. I guess we were ahead of the curve as a prominent leftist thought leader finally now admits the elephant in the room. boom, truth, facts, and how ridiculous leftist policies are that excuse, justify, and defend outright criminal behavior, arresting the same people over and over again, as District Attorney Alvin Bragg lets them back out on the streets to reoffend and victimize the community perpetually. All the while, such a slap in the face, he's focused on indicting Donald Trump over non-existent crimes that he can't even define. Ridiculous. But honestly, the best part of that clip was that ridiculous, incoherent, pseudo-intellectual rambling from that one leftist on the panel. He went on this monologue on and on and on using fancy words. Oh, how eloquently spoken. Yet that entire time said literally nothing. The structure is the issue as opposed to the individual. The moral valence. It's terrible to commit a crime, but then what are you even saying? What do you do from there? You police crime and put criminals in jail. You police the community and keep law-abiding citizens safe. You create incentive for good behavior. You don't justify and enable predatory behavior. I mean, if that's not the perfect example of pseudo-intellectualism, then I don't know what is. I mean, what fascinating mental gymnastics, what fascinating behavior. Anyways, we're ahead of the curve, folks. What we're speaking is not hateful, it's not bigoted, it's basic common sense. Everybody knows it, even the leftoids know it, and eventually, the truth is going to prevail. Eventually, they're going to have to admit that in the end, we were right. And actually, speaking of that, you guys of course know New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Well, take a look at what he said just the other day.
You know, the city is being destroyed by the migrant crisis, and none of my folks came to Washington, D.C. to fight for the resources that's going to undermine every agency in our city.
I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna say anything more. Actually, you know what? I'm not gonna say anything, but I will let somebody else speak. The top comment on that video is from a Twitter user named Zach Heater, who writes, "Republicans tried to tell you." Well done, Zach. We'll leave it at that. You guys know the deal. I never need to over-explain things, but I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. You know that we would love to have you here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.